My name is Mike Denning, and I'm Vice President of Student Affairs here at Conestoga College. As our community continues to grow, we're welcoming increasing numbers of international and immigrant students to the college. These newcomers to Canada often face many special challenges. In this four-part video, you're going to hear some of the faculty and students talk about their intercultural experiences at the college. We hope that watching New World provides all of us with a better understanding of the journey we are taking together.
When I arrived here, I've been looking, then I heard that Conestoga, they have the best program of ESL.
My parents went to an agency and asked, which school was good in Canada, right? And the agency told us Conestoga College.
I had difficulty because by the time I was, during my stay in Uganda, I lost my papers and it was hard to be accepted in the country, in this college. So I had to go through different process to be able to get papers to allow me to be in school.
When I came here and I learned that there is a program here, I applied for it and I talked to Yuri, Dr. Kakalowski. He was the coordinator of the program at the time. So he encouraged me and I just applied and I got it.
The city I was living, we have many people from different cities. You know, China is a big country, and then many people are from different cities, and they have different culture as well. But I didn't even meet many people from other countries.
Kind of, because when I was going to my my school from the grade 1 to 5. I was in the French school in my country for 5 years, so I was learning my country's official language and French at the same time in a school that was French school. So, and also I'm from Azerbaijani background in Iran, so I was learning 3 languages together, 3 cultures together.
When I was growing up, no, I didn't have intercultural experience, but the only thing I had is in my country there is 2 different it's kind of like culture, but it's 2 different languages.
First of all, by the time I came in Canada, I did not know I did not know how my life gonna be in Canada. I've been thinking that okay, my life as soon as I arrive in Canada, my life gonna change abruptly, but I noticed that being in this country, everything is to start from scratch.
One thing I thought was unexpected is how mostly Canadians were welcoming to me. It began since I was on the plane to Canada, from France to Canada. I met a couple who were actually nice to me and friendly, and it was it was fun for me from there onwards.
I thought I would have no place to live when I got in Canada, and no friends, nobody who I knew. But then when I arrived in Canada, somebody from school, Conestoga College, picked me up from airport in Toronto, and she brought me to residence because I ran over there, and I saw the place was great. The residence was great, yeah. So I was so happy I had room to live.
Well, I'm now in Wilfred Laurier University, and I'm now in my 2nd year in leadership and human resources program.
Yeah, after graduated, I had 3 months vacation in China, and then after vacation, I came back to Canada and looked for a job, and I got job in nursing home.
I am actually today I got my paperwork to be a permanent full-time for my permanent full-time job at mental health services in Guelph. and I'm in the position of decision support. So I'm very happy today.
I have lots of memorable experiences, but I did have a student probably about 3 years ago who was terrified. Terrified of English, was away from home for the first time. We had to do an assignment where we had to go to the cafeteria and ask some questions. And he was terrified. We walked to the cafeteria and he hugged the wall. He was so scared. He kept saying, I can't. We went down, he asked a few questions. By the time he finished level 2, he was talking with everyone. So it was just amazing to hear the other teachers say, wow, look at this guy, look at him talk.
It was a matter of just luck and to some degree of timing that I was able to help him find the current position that he, not as a full-time job, but as a co-op opportunity at the end of his classroom time, where he currently is and has since been hired on as full-time. But you know, the night that Karim found out he got the position, he emailed me and told me that I had changed his family's life, and I felt that was a very touching moment. So.
I have a couple of stories I think that impacted me. One in particular was a man from Pakistan who had come, and again, he was a medical doctor, but he had come to Canada and always sat in the front of the class, was very involved with what was going on. And this particular instance was the morning of 9/11. We had started class at 8 o'clock in the morning, and about an hour into the class, 8:30, I had given them a break about an hour after class had started. And when he came back from break, he grabbed his things, he gathered up his books, and he went to the back of the room and sat there with his head down. Thought something had happened, he must have had bad news. So afterward I went to him and I talked to him. He said he was so afraid that people would think that he was somehow responsible, that he was somehow involved with this horrible event that was unfolding. The video cameras and the TV cameras were up in the hall and people were watching this whole horrible event unfold. And it had impacted him so greatly because it was people from his background who had potentially been involved. He was just horrified. He looked so distraught and so empty, and I almost cried through that whole thing. I thought that he would have come to Canada and would imagine that we would feel so bad and that we would blame him for this. That to me impacted me hugely because I sometimes look at a student and I don't realize where they've come from. I don't realize what they can bring to me and what they might be going through themselves. And so that really taught me a lot about being more aware and more involved.
You know, from day one of the semester, usually I'm a little nervous because I'm not sure what's going to happen. But I love seeing their faces day one, realizing exactly what they can do, what they can't do, being able to work with them throughout the semester, and then being able to see them at the end of the semester, being able to see them graduate at the end of 4 semesters makes me feel really happy. When I see them smile, when they've realized that, wow, I got it, that just makes my job worthwhile.
I think probably the time that I feel the most excited or the most interested is when I have a student who understands what's expected or understands what I say. They feel comfortable with what's going on in the classroom, and they don't feel, or they don't seem to feel at odds with what's going on. And I'm always really happy about that because I think we think about things in the way that we've grown up and assume that everybody else thinks of it the same way. And so when we have a mix of cultures, it's always nice to know when somebody understands and can embrace that.
For some reason, to date, it's always been, I've felt most helpful in the sort of the stage when they're done their classroom and they're starting to look for jobs or co-op positions. I feel that in classroom settings, I'd like to think anyhow that I'm fairly good at watching, you know, idiomatic expressions and trying to avoid them or explain them if I use them. But I think where I can add most value to like an international student, say, or someone from a different culture is when I'm trying to help them find a job, help them, formulate their cover letters, or have a look at their resumes, or talk to them about what they might expect in an interview scenario and things like that.
Actually, by the time I came in Canada, I've been thinking about, I did not know how life is in Canada and how people live in Canada, but by the time I came here, I noticed that Canada is a multicultural country and with a lot of people from different backgrounds, and I noticed all the time I've been encountering different people with different backgrounds and different cultures. So
for my condition was language. Like it was for me like hard to deal with too many things, and I was like by myself. I still by myself and away from my family. So you will have hard time at the beginning.
Spend so much time, a lot of time to study English language, and I try to talk to people and then to be nice to everybody, Yeah, but studying English was the most challenging. Yeah.
I think my biggest challenge was the weather. I had never seen snow ever in my life. Like in my country's landlocked and there's not that kind of weather. That was my biggest challenge. And also the language, like the way I talk, most people don't understand it. So I have to repeat myself over and over for them to understand.
Well, it's a long story, but when you start a new country, it's a new life, everything from scratch. So I was, I still am a doctor in my home country, not here, but it's not respected here as a doctor, in my degree here. So I had to start everything from scratch, everything from beginning. So having 2 kids and a family, so I had to take care of my family, trying to work part-time and coming to the school, studying and taking care of all the things together was not easy. And at the same time, there were some problems contracting with the people.
I had to fit in the Canadian society. I had to go back to school so that I may be able to go back in my career, which was to work as an internal medical professional.
You came from different place, different rules, different things. So with everyday life, you will facing some things you don't understand.
Actually, until I live with my homestay family, and I lived with them for about 3 years. So when I went to school, she dropped me off. She gave me a ride to school, and then when I finished school, she waited for me, and then we went back home together. And then it let me feel like it is my own country, and I actually have a family here, and then it made me really comfortable.
I remember first semester was the hardest because you don't know the system, you don't know how the school tough or it's not. So I was pushing myself into it. So after first semester, everything became like home. Okay. Yeah.
I would say probably one of the most important things is be patient. I think what happens a lot of times with international students, they have a lot of ideas. They may not have the vocabulary in order to express the ideas, so they may have to say something that takes twice as long as somebody who English is the first language.
Faculty too really need to make sure they know inside and out what the school has to offer, because there's a lot of services here, and if you can't identify a need for a student if you don't know the program exists.
Be patient, let them speak, respect where they've come from. sometimes put yourself in their shoes. Imagine what you would be going through if you were in their country doing the same thing in a different language, different country.
Either avoid or minimize the usage of idiomatic or culturally specific expressions, or if you use them, make sure you are sure that everyone in the classroom understands them.
I think getting involved with their culture and asking them questions about where they've come from and what's significant and what it means to them to have come here. Just as an example, when we talk about nursing, I'll actually ask a student, what would you do in your home